Well, it was kind of unusual to have this announcement come out on a Sunday morning. Melissa Rudinger joins us now, and Melissa, you've been on the UAS committee that helped put together all of these rules. So start with the top line. What does it mean?
Yes, so we've been working on these rules for a number of years, and what has come out of the FAA, the NPRM, the Notice of Proposed Rulemaking, hasn't actually been published yet, but what is going to be in the NPRM was made public yesterday. And so the basic rules of the road for commercial UAS operations is no operations above 500 feet. The aircraft has to weigh 55 pounds or less. It has to fly outside of Class A, B, C, D, and E airspace. If it wants to fly in Class B, C, D, or E airspace, they need permission from air traffic control. There's going to be certification requirements for the operator and a few other requirements that are common sense requirements that will keep manned aircraft safe and UAS integrated safely into the system.
Okay, so and we just need to reemphasize that this is for commercial operations. This does not touch recreational use or the 17-year-old who got a quadcopter for Christmas.
Yes, so this addresses commercial operations which previously were prohibited unless you had a waiver. And model aircraft operations, as you know, have been approved operations for years. And what the FAA did last year is they issued a rule interpretation that really outlaid what the requirements and rules are for model aircraft operators. And essentially, they have to abide by community consensus standards as well as a number of other common sense standards that keep them out of the way of manned aircraft.
Let's go a little more detail on the commercial rules. Now, I understand that the aircraft is going to have to be registered, get an N number?
Yes, just like any other aircraft, it will be registered with the FAA, the Aircraft Registry, have an N number, and it'll have to renew its registration just like any other aircraft.
But it's not going to be certificated.
Not certificated, so no airworthiness certificate. However, the operator is required to ensure and do a pre-flight inspection and ensure that the aircraft is safe to operate.
Now, is the operator going to need a pilot certificate?
The operator is going to need what's a new certificate. It's called the FAA Unmanned Aerial System Operator's Permit. And you have to be 17 years old, so there's an age limit. And you have to pass a knowledge test, so an aeronautical knowledge test. And you have to have a biannual every 2 years and repass another aeronautical knowledge test, written test.
Okay. Now this covers unmanned aerial systems or drones from 55 pounds down to 4.5 pounds. Now the FAA has created another category besides small unmanned aerial systems.
Well, the FAA in the NPRM is going to ask for input on whether or not it should create a subcategory of microlight UAS. And that would be for the very, very lightweight UAS that weigh 4.4 pounds or less. The current proposed rule, it treats all small UAS the same. However, the FAA is seeking input to see if it could have this subcategory of very small aircraft that would fly below 400 feet, and it would not require an operator's certificate.
But now let me ask you about the thing that worries all of us who fly in the airspace the most, and that is, what has the FAA done to prevent us from running into somebody who's some sort of rogue operator? Most likely the 17-year-old kid who just got one and thought, oh boy, wouldn't it be cool to fly around the airport? What have they done about that?
Right. So we had a press conference yesterday with the administrator and the Secretary of Transportation to talk about this rule. And the rule has two components. So safety is obviously the number one concern. So the number one priority of this rulemaking, not only this rulemaking, but the model aircraft rules and requirements, is to make sure that manned aircraft are not endangered. So make sure that they're separated from the UAS. That's the number one goal of all the rules and regulations that are either in place or being considered. The number two part of this is enforcement. So if we do have a rogue operator and or someone operating carelessly and recklessly, not within the guidelines or the rules, then there's an enforcement process. And so it's really important that all operators self-police. If you see somebody doing something stupid, just like in the manned world, say something. Call the FAA, call the air traffic control facility, but report it. We want to make sure that everybody's flying by the rules and flying safely. And with the proliferation of these small UAS, it's even more important.
Okay, enforcement is one component, but obviously FAA can't be everywhere all the time, so I would think that education is really very important as well. So what's being done on that?
education is important, and associations are stepping up. So the Association of Unmanned Vehicle Systems International has partnered with the Academy of Model Aeronautics and has launched what they are calling the Know Before You Go campaign. And the Know Before You Go campaign is spearheaded or is intended to do educational outreach and reach all of the folks that are flying or thinking about flying small UAS. And it's a really wonderful campaign.
Technology. What is there? Some of the manufacturers are already programming their drones to not fly in certain areas. Is that something that may be mandated?
So it's certainly something that regulators are talking about. It's not in, I don't believe it's going to be in the NPRM, and the reason I say that is it's not in any of the talking points that the FAA has released. But one of the reasons for doing a notice of proposed rulemaking is to get input. And so there's going to be a 60-day comment period with this proposed rule. And I would imagine that the FAA is going to get comments about those types of potential solutions.
Okay, thank you, Melissa. Certainly a lot more to be heard about on this issue.